Hello, everyone. Today is the second episode of the Create, Build, Try podcast. And today I'm with my close friend Nishant, who started Fisher's Car Club, which is a rapidly growing automotive events company that focuses on creating a high end driving experience for their customers. What started as a small passion project has now become a large operation that has participants that come from across the nation. And I'll hand it off to Nishant to talk a bit more about what FCC does.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, Vish. I know
Yeah.
we talk a lot about many interesting things in our personal conversations, but I'm glad to kind of bring it up to your audience and kind of talk about it more in the open. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And I mean, just to start off, I think not many people are familiar with the car events business or
Sure.
industry.
Yeah.
And I guess if you could explain a bit more about what FCC does and how that entire industry operates.
Yeah, so FCC, we like to say we do automotive experiences and events in general. I mean, we do kind of a little bit of everything. We do rally experiences, we do car shows, car events, and everything in between. What started as just, like you said, high school car
Yeah.
events in our high school parking lot has now blossomed into multi-day events across the country, the Midwest, and beyond. And so we are more than fortunate to kind of experience that growth over these past 7 years. Our community has been developed into a very welcoming community. We have our slogan, different background, same passion. We all have different reasons as to why we got into cars, why we, what we like and what we do within the car community. But at the end of the day, we all share that same passion for cars. And so our platform serves as a vehicle for these guys to enjoy that passion and spread and share that passion within the community. And so we truly enjoy what we do, and we started out bringing together these kinds of people, and we've only grown in that endeavor.
And, on that point, one, I know you said that, or in our conversation, you talked about how you started FCC quite young, and now it's definitely I'd say like very full-fledged company where you have these values that you're trying to inseminate not only within your employees but also within anyone that comes to an event. And I'm curious, one, what was what was that incentive that made you take the jump into, okay, now I want to go start this car club and go make these events, and what has fueled the values that you bring into the company?
Yeah, so the reason has changed over the years,
Yeah.
but I would say that that first spark as to why I wanted to start this is actually a pretty funny one.
Mhm.
I was a junior in high school, and obviously, junior in high school, one of the big concerns that a lot of kids have is going to college, and we want to make sure that we get into a good one, and obviously, a big part of that is having good extracurriculars to put on your college apps and things like that. So the biggest reason for why I wanted to start a car club was actually for my college apps. Now, I will say over the years it's changed because obviously now we're at Purdue, we're in college, and that reason
Yeah.
obviously no longer stands. That reason has definitely changed more into truly a passion. Obviously, I love cars. I've grown up around cars. I really do appreciate them. Then on top of that, I really found meeting the people who enjoy the cars and share that same passion and that interest has been even more fulfilling. And so, what started out as just doing something to put on a quick resume has then, moved into more of me appreciating and enjoying the cars and enjoying the people around them more than anything, the people, and being around those people and fostering that community has is made me want to push even further into this endeavor and further into this business. Obviously, to start out, there wasn't much risk associated with it. I mean, it was just about putting a flyer out there and you know, uh, seeing who would come. But now, obviously, there's a lot more at stake, and we have we have more responsibility, and so the reasons have changed. But it really started out as something very simple, and so that's why I always tell people, um, life has many different ways to take you as far as like reasons for starting things and different small little opportunities that pop up. Take them and see where it goes is what I would say.
So I mean, I do think that's true where like yes, you get these opportunities where you can start something and it can be fun at first. But I think with anything that, especially with the FCC being around for like 7 years, um, there's always that point where something that starts as a passion ends up getting more difficult and like it becomes a much more arduous journey. Um, if you could talk a bit more about, I know you said it started as like a high school passion project, but then when did you start noticing, okay, this could actually become something serious? And what was that process like of making it become a legit car club?
Yeah, so it was our fourth event into doing all of this, and before that we had three events. It was just in a parking lot. We kind of took it very easily. It was very casual, but we started noticing, actually we got some traction on social media.
Hmm.
Social media was huge for us, and I started to notice that we got a good amount of attention coming our way, and I realized maybe we should take this a little bit more seriously and try to put on a little bit better of a show for our people. And so we started putting emphasis more on some nicer venues rather than just a high school parking lot. We shifted our mentality a little bit. We wanted to get some sponsors. We wanted to get some more official venues, some partners, and it kind of grew along with the attention that we were getting on social media. As soon as we got that attention, we wanted to do a little bit more on the front end as far as our product itself. And so I think that responsibility that started to come my way as far as wanting people or people wanting a little bit more started making me take it a little bit more seriously as
Hmm.
well. Then on top of that, obviously, we're all driven by, seeing a little bit of success.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? Once you see a little bit of something come out of what you started, it motivates you to keep going at the end of the day, right? So I think that was a big factor. Just seeing a little bit of traction and seeing a little bit of growth really pushed me to want to do more out and get more out of it as well. Um, I think for us, it was a unique story where we had a really good hype engine going on social media, through the community, through our partners and things like that, that it just kept on compounding through that first year or two. Um, I would say on top of that, a big inspiration for me was I would see some big rallies and big operations going on a national scale and a global scale.
Yeah.
Um, Big rallies such as Gumball, Gold Rush, like where celebrities go on those and they do rallies from country to country. Those things were happening out there, and I was like, wow, that would be really cool. I saw a small taste of that on a small local scale, what we were doing in Fishers, Indiana, out of all places. We saw a little bit of synergy between that and maybe scaling it to a big rally operation like what you see out there. And so I saw that big vision out there, and I was like, we're doing something here. Maybe there's a possibility we could get to something like that. I felt in my heart that we could grow to something bigger than this. And so we thought to just kind of keep riding that wave and
Hmm.
and going towards that big goal.
So you talked a lot about how there was things that compounded for you to continue pushing into putting time into FCC. But was there any period of time where you were uncertain about this passion project becoming something bigger, and how did you deal with that uncertainty?
Yeah, I think every entrepreneur weighs the pros and cons at every point in the business, being like, the time and effort and all the resources they put into it versus the output they get out of it. Is it really worth it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that question definitely came up a couple times. I think for me, it was also once again a unique story where I was a student
Hmm.
when trying to grow and scale this business, and so when you are doing full-time school, internships, and then also developing a business, I
Yeah,
think it becomes a little overwhelming at times. And also, first few years, we weren't really seeing much out of it either. I mean, it's we're in this delusion of we're trying to grow and scale to this big dream, but that dream isn't in front of us quite yet.
yeah,
And we weren't seeing insane amounts of growth. I mean, we our biggest event at the time, maybe we had 40, 50 cars.
yeah.
And then we didn't necessarily have an official paying sponsor or anything like that. So there wasn't much traction to really say, let's do this, let's keep going. And of course, this is
Yeah, like
worth
what
it.
was fueling that delusion?
Right. I think at the end of the day, you have to stay fixed on, even when it looks crazy to keep going, you have
Yeah.
to stay fixed on the idea that it will pan out, it will work out at the end of the day. Because when you're going through that, there will be questionable moments, especially from the outside. I think a lot of people close to you, I think a lot of my family at that point was saying, why are we focusing on this versus school and getting a job and
Hmm.
going down that path, especially my freshman year of college. I think that was a big, concern for people around me, that I was putting a lot of effort into something that didn't seem necessarily like it was it was going anywhere. But for me, really, what it was is knowing why I started. Right at the end of the day, the reason why I started to pivot from just a high school car club to trying to do more official events anyway was because I had this vision and this belief that it will become the next big Midwest rally and automotive experience platform, um, for us. And so I had that conviction then. And sometimes, yes, it can get a little bit muddy and you can get a little bit lost in the weeds as far as, you know, what exactly is growing right now. You might lose sight of that. But then when you remind yourself why you started, and then also the fact that it's temporary. Like at the end of the day,
Mhm.
if you try hard enough and you keep going long enough, it will pan out. Now, we talked about this personally, how those periods do get longer over time,
Yeah, yeah,
especially as you're developing, more and more risks, more and more, bottlenecks and things like that. You do realize that some of the small hiccups when you first started no longer exist. However, those bottlenecks become larger and larger as you grow, right? You don't necessarily have um, the same small problems. The problems become bigger, but also the rewards also become bigger. They always say, no risk, no reward. And the bigger risk you take, the bigger reward you get. And so I do think as you grow, those periods, like you said, of time where um, you might feel a little bit down and out, do increase. But what's always kept me going is that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. If you push far enough, long enough, and if you pivot also smart enough, I think those are the times where you can go for a lot of growth as well. If you go look at what exactly caused that little bit of a lull,
mhm,
for us, it's done us really well when we look into it and go, hey, what exactly are we doing wrong? How do we get here? And how can we come out of this a little bit stronger? When you start looking into the problem and actually trying to sort it out, and rather than just feeling bad for yourself or feeling bad for the company, I
yeah.
think it, I think it pans out pretty well. And
No,
so there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
I really like the idea of like it's temporary. There's a light at the end of the tunnel because like
Yeah,
I think it was Tom Hanks who said like this too shall pass,
yeah,
and it's like the same idea.
right, right,
Um, I'm curious though, like as much as people say like, oh, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There are those periods of time where it's like months or even like sometimes like years of just what is going on here, and like you've seen that
yeah.
there's periods, even like some entrepreneurs talk about how like I think it was like one of the I read this recently, like the Polymarket CEO was like 18 when he started it, and
Hmm.
for 3 years he was like borderline homeless and
Yeah,
just still was like stuck in that delusion.
yeah.
um all that being said, I'm curious, like when was one of those periods of time for you, like specifically, where it's like I really don't know if this is gonna work out, like a
Yeah,
specific period of time where like whether it's like right before a rally or something that went wrong, anything
yeah,
like that.
yeah. There was an event where we were doing well up until this point. We
Yeah.
had some traction, events were going well, and I was like, wow, things are going great, and we're on a great path to success. There was one event where it went really well. We had, 80, 90 cars that came to this event. And then after that, we got a little confident, or I got confident.
Yeah, yeah.
I posted on our social media saying we're going to do one the week after itself, right
Oh,
away. We're
okay.
just like, let's keep this momentum going. Let's keep
Okay,
going, right?
yeah.
And I remember at that time I had a very different team to what we have right now. I'm very thankful for our team. I think we have a really good operation going right now.
Mhm.
However, back then we didn't have quite the operation in place um, to kind of, even if things went wrong, to support from the back end. We didn't necessarily have it at that point. Um, but we posted an event literally a week after that successful one, and at that event, it was a 3 o'clock event on a Saturday. I remember it very clearly. And so usually cars start rolling in around 2:30,
Mhm.
2:45. People come early to these things. Um, However, 3 o'clock rolled around at this point. There's only three cars in that parking lot. Three cars, right? I mean, imagine this. I mean, the week before we had 80, 90 cars. So like
Yeah,
I was expecting, shit, we might go to 100,
yeah.
something like that, right? But 3 o'clock was rolling around. I guess even before that, I was worried that 2:30, 2:45 was rolling around. There was no cars. Even my own team members weren't there at that point. People were nowhere to be seen, and so I had this delusion and belief that we were gonna have 100 plus cars. But in reality, we were, I think by the end of it at 3:30 rolled around, and one of the three cars came up and asked me, he's like, am I in the right place for the event? It was one of those that it was a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. And I remember, I mean, long story short, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock rolled around, and there was just, the same
No,
three, four
yeah,
cars. It
yeah.
was all of us just sitting in a circle, talking about our cars, and I had to do my absolute best. I was sweating on the inside, but on the front end, I had to really make it seem like, hey, you know, don't necessarily know what happened, but at the end of the day, we do have great events, and I had to convince them of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because those three had not come to the previous week actually, and so
Oh,
they didn't see exactly. They just saw on social media all the success, but they didn't necessarily experience it for themselves. So I had to sit there and try to convince them that we're actually legit.
yeah.
And so I remember for that hour or two, it was a tough time trying to really, tell them, we're legit and that.
Just convince these guys. Hey, yeah, I know there's three cars here,
Right,
but
right,
we're
right.
legit.
I remember going home that day being like, I don't think this is worth it. I really thought at that point that I think I told my mom, I was like, it was rough, and I also think I got what I needed out of it for college apps and things like that. So maybe I don't need to do another one, right?
Yeah.
I think your question was, what pushes you past that? I think for one night I was embarrassed, but I think what kept me going after that, I looked back on our Instagram and I was like, okay, this event did really well the week prior.
Yeah.
How can I salvage it? I mentioned right before this, you have to look into the problem. Don't sit there and sulk over it and be like, okay, what can I do about this? Maybe isn't it's not worth it or this and that. Don't look at it that way. I think we've had this type of moment many times. It's looked different over the years, but that moment is a good example of kind of how you can either just sit there and be like, okay, it's not worth it anymore, and you can move on, or you can sit there and go like, okay, what did I do wrong? Obviously, at that point, you can very easily tell we probably acted a little bit too quickly and,
Yeah.
and did an event very very hastily right after a successful event. I think you got to let the community breathe a little bit. I think you got to, maintain that hype. I think one thing, I think for every business owner that I've talked to is you don't want to dilute the product.
Hmm.
There's a reason why, Apple doesn't do a release every single month of a
Yeah.
new different phone or a new SKU of product or something like that. They have strategic releases that maintain the hype within their Apple community and ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
We're no Apple, but at the end of the day, I think the principle stays the same. I think you have to retain a certain level of brand image,
Hmm.
and that for us has done us really well. I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned is you have to know your brand image very well, inside and out, and what you stand for, and retain that brand image very well. And so for us, it's retaining that hype, making sure there's enough space and enough momentum going. You also don't want to wait too long for an event,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because then it gets a little stale.
And yeah, then people don't remember.
Yeah,
And
people are waiting for the next move, and then if you don't deliver, then also you have a problem there.
that's fair. Yeah.
But it's a balancing act. I think every business goes through it, and but to go back to your original question, I do think it's about how you take it. You can look at it as a problem, or you can look at it as a opportunity for improvement. And so for us up until this point, it's been a really big thing for me personally to always look at a problem as it's temporary. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You mentioned that too will pass,
Hmm.
right? Um, you'll move on from it, and there will be, a bigger picture. Um, but don't get too fixated on the small problem in front of you. Remember what you started out for, and remember that there is bigger things to come.
No, I thought that was well, one thing that was interesting throughout that entire story is you talked a lot about your team and like um, brand image and all these things that kind of play into not necessarily directly into the product, but it's like all these things that indirectly help create what FCC provides to their customers. And I'm curious what that process has been like of like one finding good team members to work with and
Hmm.
like help create the quality that you bring in FCC. And then how you like work with them to develop this brand image that like that's honestly probably more valuable than the product itself. Like that brand is what's so big
100%,
here. Yeah.
100%. First off, shout out to the FCC team. They do a phenomenal job. It wouldn't be possible without them.
Yeah.
I think no matter what company you're in, once again, I think it goes past. the founder, if you do it right,
Yeah.
goes past the founder and the original owner very quickly. Without
Yeah.
a team, you can't do very much. And there's very few niche businesses where it's just a
So
single
one guy.
one
Yeah.
man. If you want to actually scale,
Yeah.
right? If you
Yeah.
want to scale, I do think the team, and then you also mentioned a lot of the kind of the intangibles behind the mission are very important.
Hmm.
I think it's honestly nowadays more important than my singular actions nowadays, right? What you cultivate and the kind of the image behind it all is very important. I had mentioned a little bit of a story where the team wasn't in the correct place
Hmm.
at the right time, and I didn't foster that mentality very well in the beginning. So I've learned a lot over the years, but I do think for us, it once again is a unique scenario where we have guys that are very passionate about our mission.
Yeah.
Um, with us, we all at the end of the day are car guys. We don't have a single guy on our team that doesn't like cars. I think that would be very counterintuitive to have guys on our team that don't necessarily appreciate the product.
Hmm.
And so for us, I think it's been paramount that they enjoy the cars. They have that same passion that I started the company with, um, to grow this mission of different backgrounds, same passion, and growing throughout the Midwest. It's very important that they also share that. Um, I think all those guys have that same factor as far as they appreciate this mission in the same way I do. Um, but also on top of that, for me, a unique way of bringing these guys on board is actually every single one of them participated in our event one way or the other, or were involved in some way, shape, or form before they were a team
They
member.
said like saw the quality and was like, okay, I
Right,
want to be part of
right,
this.
right.
Yeah.
I never brought a guy externally and said, "Hey, like learn this operation." It was always kind of, I know it's not necessarily internal, but it was from our participant base that they were actually pulled and said, "Hey, I want to be involved in this. How can I get involved further rather than just being a participant?" And then obviously we go in and make sure that they kind of fit our criteria, but it's always been as simple as they just appreciated what we had put out there
Hmm.
firsthand.
Yeah.
How can we relate this to kind of a bigger picture? I think that for every company is probably the case. If you don't believe in the company mission,
Then
why would you do it? I
yeah.
I, I don't think, and unless it's just, a crazy, opportunity, a work opportunity, there's not many scenarios where the money really outweighs you disliking the job and the mission and things like
Yeah. I
that,
mean,
right?
otherwise you just can't get through all the tunnels
Right, right.
that come along
Exactly,
with it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think no matter how much you get paid, it would have to be an unreasonable amount for it to really make sense.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this many times. Like, I don't think you can ever really sacrifice, your own personal morals and reasons for doing a job just for money. I don't
Yeah.
think you'll get burnt out very quickly. Like you said, you won't be able to make it through those dark tunnels. And so one thing that's been very important for us on our team is that the same way I was able to see the bigger picture and I really enjoy what we do. I think every single one of these guys on our team, we have 8 guys now in total.
Hmm.
All 7 others appreciate it in the same way and have that same vision. And so I think that's been very important for developing a team. Now, past that, the team also understanding that brand image,
Yeah.
very, very important. We talk about it constantly. And we also have very, how do we put it? We very often go back and analyze, where we can improve on that brand image and maybe where we deviated a little bit and how
Hmm.
we can bring it back.
Hmm.
That is actually a big part of when you're in an events business. A big part of growing is understanding small little interactions where we maybe could have done better for the participant, maybe where we could have enhanced the experience a little bit better. Going and looking back at that highlight reel and being like, hey, let's improve upon that. And it's a very productive conversation we have with the team every time, and amongst the management and the team is we look at it and go like, how can we convey this brand image to our guys and go back and look at some learning experiences within our events and have these guys kind of uh, learn from that and push forward. And so that overall, like I said, it's more than just me now. It's this whole holistic team that we have to better. And so for the betterment of this holistic image, those small improvements make a big difference, right?
Okay, that makes sense. And I think throughout a lot of that, it seems like there's a common theme of just passion of like, okay, everybody here is into the cars and like
Definitely,
that's what keeps them there. But
definitely.
I think one thing that kind of sticks out to me, especially when you're talking about how like passion is what keeps you going through a lot of the like rough times in business.
Yeah,
And some of those rough times, I know we talked about it a bit before, but one thing that's kind of been on the back of my mind is that you guys are all very young in this like industry with much older people because usually it's
yeah,
older people that own these nice cars.
right.
And I mean, I'm kind of speculating here, but I assume you may have had to deal with uh, kind of problems with respect, where like somebody comes to your event, it's like they see these 20-year-olds, and it's like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm curious how was that whole like interaction with like this 35-year-old guy has a Lambo comes in and just sees some 20-year-olds sitting in a parking lot.
Yeah. It wasn't even 20-year-olds at the beginning. It was like
Yeah,
16-year-olds, and
exactly.
it was just like I think they would see this image on social media and our website and everything, and then
Yeah,
pull up to the event, and it's like,
the hell's
what's
going on
going
here?
what's going on,
Yeah,
right? Like honestly, many times I'll be standing at the front welcoming people, and they'll just drive by me, right? Because they think I'm just some
some guy.
volunteer or something,
Yeah, yeah,
and then they find out later he's the one that actually invited me to this event,
yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's been a such an upward battle, especially in our earlier years. I think now the narrative is changing a little bit.
Mhm.
Obviously, now about to be 23, so
Yeah,
I'm feeling a little old. But it's definitely different from when you were, 16, 17, when you just got your license and you barely know how to drive compared to these guys, right? And then also, like you said, we are dealing with a much more mature clientele. Our median age is 38.
wow.
And so you're dealing with guys that at one point more than double our age, right? And also, I mean, the median's 38, but you got many, many more guys that are well into their retirement and things like that. They've done life, and
Yeah,
then they're coming to you to enjoy their free time.
yeah.
And so it's up to you to really make sure you put on a good show because they have many other things they could be going on vacations. They could be doing so many other things, but they choose to spend a weekend with us and
Mhm.
an experience that we put on. And so it's very important that we deliver on that. And so obviously on the image side, we've had to really battle that idea of it's just a bunch of kids running the show and I'm paying them, thousands of dollars
Mhm.
to experience something where I could pay that same thousands of dollars somewhere else and get a much, much more proven model of having fun and relaxing and enjoying the free time. Um, but I think very quickly our biggest way of combating that, and very quickly they realize, is that as soon as they come to the starting point, we put on a very, very seamless show.
Mhm.
We've never made the experience match our age. We've always tried to punch out of our leagues in terms of kind of the show we put on. I think that starts from the inside and it reflects on the outside. Even our conversations now internally on the team, it's always stating how we have a system, we have a process, and we have a very important image to protect on the outside as well, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think making sure, even in our planning phases, we understand the small nuances in every single aspect of the company. Now, not even on the participant side, we're talking even on the sponsorship side, on the brand image or the brand partnership side. You're talking about solid marketing dollars
Yeah.
from these companies coming to us, to market these
They're
businesses.
trusting you.
They're
Yeah.
trusting us with that company fund. And so it's important for us to deliver on that. And so we have this really good image when it comes to our website or social media and things like that they see on the outside and then at the event itself. But then on the back end, it's really important that we have really good SOPs, standard operating procedures. As soon as we onboard a sponsor, what do we do to make sure that they feel fulfilled in the dollars that they spent?
Yeah.
And then in the same way, we also have very good KPIs to really make sure that we understand when we're performing below threshold and the indicators that show, hey, we might need some help here,
Mhm.
right? We go look at that and go say, hey, let's focus our efforts and make sure that there is no hole in our whole system. I'm not saying we're perfect, and
Yeah.
obviously you have to have a system to where if something does fall through the cracks, what do we do to combat that as well? But at the same time, you can really maximize your odds of really polishing your product if you really take a look at the back end and really focus on, hey, we understand that we're at a disadvantage on some of the image things that you mentioned as far
Hmm.
as we look like young kids on the outside. But if we really make sure our product is really polished on the back end and we push out something that really is on the participant end flawless, whereas like once they come to the starting point, they can basically turn off their brains. They don't have to worry about a single thing. We handle the rest.
Yeah.
You pay us your entry fee and we'll make sure you have a flawless and fun weekend. You just have to put the gas in your car basically, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of experience we try to put out. Then on the sponsor end, in January when they onboard as a sponsor, we want to make sure that they feel every quarter we're checking in with them. Hey, do you feel satisfied? Do you feel that we're doing a good job in terms of representation and marketing? If we're not, there's an easy way to pivot within the first quarter or two within the season when we have time to innovate and improve in that. So I think there's long answer. That was a long answer to answer your question as far as yes, the image is very like, you know, it was a big factor that we had to combat against. But there's so many things you can do to polish up your back end and your front end to really show and emphasize the fact that it's not a 16-year-old product.
No, from the way I
Um,
see it, I feel like it's because you guys started at such a young age,
yeah,
now there's that much more of an emphasis on brand and image that
right.
like a lot of I don't at least
It's a good way
talking
to
to
put it. Yeah,
some businesses like not many people put that much of an emphasis on like quality.
yeah,
Like I want you to be like like how you said like your brain just needs to be turned off. Everything's
right,
done.
right, right, right.
And I don't think I at least from the story that you just told me, like I don't think you would have that level of drive towards quality if you weren't so young starting this business.
One thing that's really interesting to me is I think like our good friend Krishna says this.
Yeah, yeah,
He says there needs to be a perfect storm for something good to happen,
yeah.
right? And so you had just mentioned it right there, where you're like, you know, uh, that disadvantage at a younger age has
Yeah.
actually
Helped.
shown us a good positive light in terms of yeah helping us maintain a better brand image. We put even more emphasis on it than the average person would have. If I started it now versus when I was 16,
Hmm.
I don't think we would have had that same emphasis.
Yeah.
So it was that perfect storm, honestly, of like we were young, we didn't have much to lose. We just knew we had a good idea that we wanted to act upon, but we recognize our certain disadvantages, but how do we combat that and how do we push towards our bigger picture? I think is actually, panned out to be really nice for us overall.
Yeah. And actually, with this whole topic of brand image, there's another question that comes to mind with like experimenting. Because I
Yeah,
think with any company that wants to innovate and try to become or reach a like a higher scale or get more customers or do bigger events, there's a level of risk and experimentation that needs to be done. I'm sure you've experienced this with like you do a different type of event or you do a bigger event where instead of 50 cars, you now have you triple it, you go to 150.
yeah.
And I'm curious what that relation or like what is your relationship with risk and experimenting within FCC and how has that helped you or hurt you in the past?
It's changed over time because, like I said at the beginning,
Hmm.
it was you have nothing to lose. Like realistically, there's not much that you're sacrificing other than your time and effort. You're not sacrificing an image or something like that. So that risk definitely changes over time. You're risking different things. At the beginning, it was maybe you're just putting in your time and effort and maybe that opportunity cost. But now that relationship with risk has changed in terms of we have to weigh if we make a change, if we make an improvement, or if we make some sort of pivot,
Hmm.
are we taking away from our image and what we've built so far? Do we think that could get affected if we go a different direction in this idea that we're developing? We obviously have so many things that we innovate on and we we have in terms of new ideas and things that we want to act upon. But at the same time, a factor in deciding whether we implement that or not, actually one of the biggest factors is are we going to change our brand image or are we going to do anything of detriment to that,
Hmm.
right? And so that when it comes to risk has been the biggest thing, especially in these past 2 years. I would say we've built up a really good product, we've built up a really good community, and we're very passionate about the fact that we have a good working product.
Hmm.
Do we really want to change that whenever we do something new, right? And so we've been kind of fixed in a lot of different ways. Versus the beginning. I mean, right now we don't want to change too much as far as what's working. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, I mean, we were trying to see what works,
Yeah.
right? It's so different in the beginning when you don't have a working product quite yet, but when now later on you have proven models, you have proven sponsors, you have proven community, um, you have a proven business structure.
Hmm.
A lot of my thought process nowadays comes into what are we putting on the line as far as what works when we do weigh out some of our risks in the business. On top of that, there's a handful of obviously given risks as far as liability exposures and things like that in an events business that we do need to mitigate, obviously with good insurance policies, waivers, um, and good legal team behind us.
Hmm.
But those are all inherent. I think as you scale a business, the risks associated with bigger structures, and you have more to lose, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So you need to obviously constantly weigh out what are you risking and what are you willing to risk.
I see. And I'm curious with like with brand image being such a big factor that comes into play a
Yeah.
lot of the times. Do you ever feel like that emphasis on brand has ever halted your speed of being able to scale? And like, has that relationship with brand image ever been like shaky? Is what I'm concerned.
Yeah, arguably some would say more than others. I mean, maybe this is where our leadership team, we do have a good amount of back and forth, and it's very positive back and forth in terms of we're really trying to see are we slowing our growth by not making this pivot and change, or are we, protecting what we built, right? And so that's a constant battle that we amongst as the leadership team really kind of go back and forth between. Um, I think at the end of the day, you do have to protect what's there, but at the same time, if you want to grow, you do have to make that jump sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so obviously, I've been doing this for 7 years now.
Hmm.
And so some of the newer guys obviously are going to have different ideas, different ways of going about it. And that's okay. I want to hear that feedback. And obviously, I want to I think one of the biggest things an entrepreneur or one of the biggest mistakes an entrepreneur can do is be stuck in his old ways. I
Yeah.
think if you're constantly being like, "Hey, I set out to do this and I saw success this way,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna stay this way," you're gonna be left behind. And so I think one thing for me over these past couple years is I've needed to mold and shift my mindset a little bit in terms of sure, what I did worked great to grow it the first 3, 4 years. But now, as we grow and develop into a more of a mature company, you got to think of things a little bit differently. I've been doing things for one way for so long that I think you've got to change your mindset to be receptive to feedback. I think some of the biggest and greatest leaders have done well when they what's the famous phrase where they're always learning.
Oh
You
yeah, I
know,
mean, I think a lot of people just talk about how most successful people in general are always in the mindset of like
yeah.
learning, learning, learning,
Right,
learning. Yeah.
right. You have to constantly be learning and be a student at all
Yeah,
times.
just always asking questions.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So that for me, I would say has been very important. I think for a certain time period, I got a little bit fixed in terms of what worked and what I believed was best. However, I've noticed some growth when I really do take some feedback and I do understand some external perspective.
Hmm.
When you're running a big operation, there's no way one person can know everything.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's important that you take in all the different inputs and then you make your best judgment on that. And so getting to that point of understanding that input
Hmm.
and receiving that input was a big step for me. But
Yeah.
once I did that, I really noticed that the growth is impeccable. Um, we've had a lot of, not even just in our team, a lot of strategic advisors and people, very helpful people, mentors that have come along the way to really, boost our growth and potential
Hmm.
just because they brought in a new perspective. They saw what we were doing and gave a little bit of strategic input in ways that we could improve. And it's gone a long way. And so I can't stress mentorship enough, by the way.
Yeah.
Over the past few years, I've had some really cool people that have helped me out and have developed who I am personally,
Yeah.
and in turn the business as well.
And actually, to touch on that a bit more, like I know that one thing that stands out to me with the car rally business is that you're probably meeting a lot of successful people because
All the time.
they're the ones that have the nice
All
cars.
the time.
So, um, I'm curious, one, how have how have those relationships benefited you? And then are those the areas where you get a lot of mentors just from people that come to your events constantly and see the growth that you've done, or does it come from other places as well?
Yeah, it's been both. I meet a lot of cool people and great people within the car community, and people I look up to personally.
Yeah.
But honestly, some of the biggest and best lessons I've learned are from some people that aren't even in the automotive space.
Wow. Okay.
I think you can get so fixed in your own little world
Yeah.
of, I mean, for me it's cars and automotive events, but that's such a little niche category in this big ocean, right? And
Hmm.
so what's benefited me honestly has been getting some feedback and input from some people externally out of my space. And so I've been fortunate enough. We talk a lot about outreach.
Yeah.
That's very important,
Yeah.
um, especially in the early years. And freshman year of college, I got to meet a lot of cool people that did very well for themselves in the business world. Um, but uh, it's not just about honestly in business. Business is like it's like I think a result
Hmm.
of some growth that you did internally of
Yes.
some sort,
I
right?
I totally agree. Yeah.
So the success, and I'm thinking about one person in specific, but he had done a couple exits and he did really well for himself, and he's obviously now kind of more relaxed and diversifying his portfolio and doing all sorts of different projects and businesses. But I think that was all a result of kind of the mentality that he had on the back end, as far as some of the hard work, the mentality, the grit, and the know-how, the slight know-how that you have to have to develop a business isn't quite like looking at a number or spreadsheet or
Hmm.
something and making the best decision upon that. It's about that little bit of a business knack that you have to develop personally.
Yeah.
And so some of those guys that I met early on in my career, I really do respect some of the knowledge bits that they gave me, as far as what you have to look out for, what you have to know. You can get caught up in your automotive world or whatever your little niche is, but there's some overarching themes that you need to look at, um, and consider if you really want to scale. And so those are the biggest things that I learned from some of the guys that are not in the automotive space. In the automotive space, I learned so much from all the guys. Like you said, a lot of these guys are a lot more established than me.
Yeah.
Um, I just got some cool cars recently, but when I first started this out, I drove my mom's old 2006 Toyota Corolla, right? And so I started from a very, what I'd like to think is a humble beginning.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to develop closely with a lot of our clientele. As our clientele has grown, I've
Hmm.
also grown with them. And so I think that's because of what you just said. I mean, I meet a lot of these cool guys. I get inspired by them. I focus on things personally, and that growth is just a result.
Yeah.
And by the end, um, I'm very fortunate. So we talk about 2006 Toyota Corolla. Now I drive, one of the cars that are comparable to our participants. It's an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
I wasn't dreaming of doing something like that
Yeah.
at the beginning, this quickly, but I really do think it's because of the influence of some of the guys I hang out with within the
I mean, yeah, it's like your
automotive community.
environment and
Yeah,
it always
yeah.
influences who you become.
So I think the biggest thing that I could say from the people is your environment is everything.
Yeah.
I've seen when I don't surround myself with the right people, I start going down a wrong path.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I surrounded myself with the right people, oh my gosh, like even if you don't think it's directly correlated, it was just inherent. It would just
It's like
happen.
subconscious in a way.
It was
Yeah.
it was crazy the magic that would happen when you would see growth in personally and in the business,
Hmm.
just when you surrounded yourself with the right people. And so
Yeah.
when we shifted our marketing more towards just our marketing has always been all inclusive, but when we started to see some success, we started to see more numbers of people,
Hmm.
and I started to see this very positive community with very cool, successful stories behind them and things like that. I think inherently it just improved. It's like a positive feedback loop. It just kept like feeding into each
As
other.
the business grows, you
As
get
the business
more
grew, I
successful
grew.
people.
As I grew, the business grew, and then as the community grew, the business grew. Like just so many different. Once again, Krishna's famous saying, "A perfect storm." I
Yeah,
really do think that that perfect storm was brewing
yeah,
in a positive direction for us.
yeah.
You know.
And actually, this was one of the things I wanted to ask earlier. But how do you think the growth you've seen with FCC and building FCC
Hmm.
has built you as a person specifically? You talked about how like there is a positive feedback loop here, but like how do you think from back when you were a high school or starting this, how much do you think you've grown and like in what areas as well?
Yeah. What's funny is like you wouldn't guess the owner of a automotive events and experiences business is shy and an introvert, but I very much am
Yeah,
an introvert.
yeah.
Uh, I would absolutely lose myself when I would have to go in front of a crowd
And just
and go
talk.
speak.
Yeah, same
Oh, it's
here,
the
same here.
worst. It's the absolute worst. But really, when I was young, actually, one of the biggest, on top of just the college apps and things like that, I actually found it as an opportunity to really improve myself and put myself out there.
Hmm.
I had a really tough time growing up. Um, just being able to, if I had to give a speech in a class, I'd be sweating so hard, and I would be rehearsing with my mom the night before, and I would be pacing back and forth in the kitchen or the living room, and I just wouldn't be able to concentrate. I'd lose myself. I'd lose all bearing I had, and for me a big part of my personal growth and development in this company has been um, being able to get a little bit more self confidence in myself
Yeah,
in front of people, especially when you're putting yourself in rooms where you might not necessarily deserve to be in there, but you are there because for some reason they respect you and you have something they like, right?
yeah.
And so being able to realize that, I wasn't able to realize that potential early on as
Hmm.
far as I always thought too hard and thought very little of myself. But over the years, I've been able to grow into this confidence of um, having that understanding that I do have some value add to these people, and having that self confidence to go up into that room and on stage and own that stage when you're talking to a sea of 200, 300 people,
Yeah,
and being like, hey, they're here for you,
yeah.
right? At the end of the day, they value and respect you to some extent, to come and pay thousands of dollars to come to your event, and at the end of the day, also sit in that room and hear what you have to say.
No, yeah. I think there's people that talk about it, it's like sometimes I think this all ties back into like imposter syndrome, and I've definitely
Definitely,
felt that sometimes now when like I'll be talking to someone that I want to potentially interview or somebody that's like one of my like a mentor or something. I'm like, why am I allowed to talk to this person?
right?
But then you think about it and you're like, there's always if you're in the room, there's a reason you were there,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason that you were meant to be there. And I
Right.
think that it kind of ties back to that. It's like building that confidence of, all
Right.
right, these people paid money
Right.
for me to talk in front of them, or like
Right. Right.
they're spending their time with me for a reason,
Right. Right.
and like realizing that and internalizing it is important.
Realizing that has been huge, and then on top of that, I really do think it's also about repetition,
Hmm.
like getting in front of people, going and
Over
talking,
and
and
over.
putting yourself out there. You've mentioned that outreach is so important, right?
Yeah,
And just putting yourself out there and maximizing your odds of kind of uh, being in the right place at the right time. The right place at the right time doesn't happen unless you maximize your odds
go
of
and
doing it, right?
yeah,
And so, for me, and what's crazy is like the opportunities have come even outside. We've talked about. I finally got into real estate this year,
yeah,
or at the end of last year for the first time because I met the right people, and I learned a lot about a completely different industry. But because of people I actually met within the car scene. And so it's been really cool how, putting yourself out there, developing your personal character as far as being confident when you're talking to somebody who's maybe double, triple your age, maybe worth, 1,000 times more than you, but at the same time, having that confidence to understand that you can also learn from them and they're willing to also bestow some information on you as well. So that development has been huge for me, and has brought a lot of different opportunities. You mentioned how has it really helped me personally.
hmm
not even just in the automotive space. I've started now other business ventures, other opportunities. A lot of my work opportunities even came from the car community.
Yeah,
And so when you put all that together, um, it's all one big picture, man. It doesn't. A lot of people like to think like one to one, like okay, this is what affects this. I think it's one holistic picture. Whatever we've talked about this, whatever you do behind closed doors reflects on the outside,
100%. Yeah,
right? So you have to become the person in and out of the game.
yeah.
Not even when you're just, well, even like basketball players will be like, it's every bit of like what happens off the court is very
Reflects on
important
what's on the court.
on the court too. And so it's not just about what's on the court and what you perform that day.
Hmm.
It's about what you do to build up to that day as well. And so that I would say has really helped. Um, this business has really helped me understand that idea as a whole.
There's one other thing that comes to mind here with how a lot of, especially college students, high school students, they're this idea of being an entrepreneur and starting your own thing is glamorized.
Oh yeah,
And I think after dealing, I've only just gotten my feet dipped in it, but you're head and shoulders, everything's already in that sort of
yeah,
experience. And I'm curious as to what you would say a lot of people underestimate or don't realize about having your own thing,
yeah.
and um, what are, yeah, just what you think is like people just don't see enough of, and why if you think it should be glamorized or shouldn't.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that people see on the surface.
Yeah,
I mean, especially in what we're talking about, what I'm doing with the automotive events. People see the flashy cars, the all the glamour as far as uh, the things I get to do and the experience I get to have. Which, by the way, dream experience. If you can, do something in this space, a passion of yours from a childhood that blossomed into a business, I don't think anybody else can truly ask for better.
yeah,
I don't think there is better than that. But I do think there's a lot to also keep in mind um, that people don't see on the outside. I think to start, I mean, there's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of nights where people don't necessarily see, the 3 a.m. nights when you're up stressing about maybe losing a partnership or a certain venue has changed and you have to pivot in a different direction. Um, People get to come and experience the event on the front end, and they get to experience all the fun things we polish in a very strategic way. We don't want them to see that
yeah,
back end
yeah,
stuff. But there is a lot of things on the back end that we have to kind of put in as far as the boring stuff that people don't completely realize. I think when people hear, oh, you get to do car events and you put together a car show for 100 exotic cars or whatever. Like that's what they think it is.
yeah,
When in reality, that's just not the case at all. It's just so much that goes into it. For us, we also deal with a lot of different. You're dealing with people,
yeah,
and so people that's the most variable you can have in an equation. You're not dealing with a computer and a math equation,
yeah,
for a standard analyst corporate job or whatever. It's you're dealing with a lot of different variables at play, and you have to deal with those nuances very strategically. And so, if I could boil it down to one short thing, it would be that there's a lot that you have to bear on your shoulders as
hmm,
kind of a business owner on the back end. Um, but I do think the front end and all the success and the growth that you get to see is what makes it all worth it.
yeah,
Like we will stress six months in advance for an event. We'll
hmm,
be planning every single day up till that event.
yeah,
And then when you see the group of people, the group of cars, and honestly more than anything, the people, you see 200 people in the audience, and you see that they're all enjoying what you put together, and they all come up after the dinner or whatever it is, and they thank you for putting together the weekend that they enjoyed. That's when it's all worth it.
yeah,
That's when it's all worth it. So I'm not gonna sit here and say it's all bad. It's all worth it. It's all great in the end.
hmm,
But I will say along the way, there's a lot of different things that you do have to go through. That's not so fun.
Hmm.
It is a lot of late nights, sleepless nights, and then also stressful nights. I mean, you're dealing with big success also comes a lot of um big weight you have to bear as far as like liability.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a lot of different sure people, but also numbers.
I
Like
mean, I
you're
think even aside from that, there's also like the standard that people set for you, like when you
right,
see all the
right, right,
success.
right.
So,
Well, there's that standard, and then also like you do something actually wrong, it could cost you a lot.
yeah.
Could cost you a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
And so you're also dealing with, I mean, we just had our event this past weekend. It was at an airport with a private hangar with, 10, 20, $30 million jets parked there, actually, and maybe even more. Um, how do you protect yourself and make sure that nothing goes wrong there?
Yeah.
Right? You're also dealing with $500,000 cars getting parked right next to the jet. So, what's your liability exposure for things like that? How do you protect yourself? Insurance, guidelines, and a good system and structure to where it's not chaos when you have 200 cars at an event. It's not easy dealing with a good workflow that mitigates your risk.
How does that part even work? Like what is it? I mean, I don't know if you can really touch into it, but
Sure.
like you got jets, if anything goes wrong, like
Right, right, right,
how
right.
does that even get resolved, I guess?
You can never bring a risk to zero, right? You
Yeah,
have to be
yeah.
okay with the inherent risk that something could go wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but what you have to do is you can go in there and say, okay, my risk is this. How do I make sure that if it does happen, what happens and what's the procedure in place? What's your standard operating procedure in case something goes wrong? Um,
Is that planned like months in advance
it
or
has to be. It has
okay.
to be. Obviously, insurance has to be in place. We have to have meetings with the venue. We have to have meetings with our team. We have to have there's not much we can do on the front end as far as a participant. People are going to be
Yeah.
people. We just have to really strengthen our back end and to really make sure that people are good, well taken care of at our events, and we really mitigate our risk. Um, those things are well planned in advance, and we really make sure that our coverage is in place in case something does go wrong.
Hmm.
And also at the same time, our waivers and liability forms are really airtight to make sure that we we as the entity hosting the event, also the venue that is providing the assets as far as um, the event venue as a whole, they are all protected. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that everybody understands the risks that they take on when they come to an event like ours. And and that's the best you can do, right?
Yeah.
That's the best you could do. And at the end of the day, I think you set out to be an entrepreneur knowing those risks. If you really want to just be a cog in the machine and have somebody else bear that risk, you should go work for another company, right? If you really want to see the fruits of building something you um, want to set out and do, you shouldn't you shouldn't run away from those types of
From that risk.
risk.
Yeah.
You should be okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean that if you want that big reward of all the different flashy things and all the different flashy success, you should be okay with dealing with the headaches on the
No, yeah,
back end.
Bezos talks about this. He's like, I think in his shareholder letters, he talked about this like idea like $1 billion success requires $1 billion failures. Where like if you
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
Amazon, like they lose, I think it's like $25 billion on their entire devices division.
sure,
But
yeah,
like all those risks are what has gotten them to be this what almost $500 billion
yeah.
company. So
One thing that's interesting is like we're no Amazon, but like I think the same principle
same principle
applies to like
applies.
every single
Yeah,
entrepreneur in business. Like honestly, a lot of life principles. Like no matter what scale you're talking about, it's the same.
yeah,
It just it applies a little differently, but like it's the exact same principle.
yeah.
And so I think I'm not saying, we're anything crazy, but at the end of the day, what we do now versus what we did 7 years ago, and probably what we'll do 7 years from now, is the exact same.
Yeah, same principles that
Same
applies.
principles that you have to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah.
The game just looks a little differently. Maybe it's a little bigger at the end of the day.
On that idea of principles, I know uh, something we've talked about a lot is human connection, and you
Hmm.
mentioned it a lot with when all you do this grueling amount of work for 6 months, and then you go have an event. Um, what makes it all worth it is like seeing the people and like
Yeah.
being able to give that experience to your participants. How has human connection fueled the business, and then also like I guess even within your personal life,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
how has the business kind of helped
Yeah.
with that front?
Yeah, I'll give you an example like um on our events first. I mean, we're dealing in a very social space, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about kind of human connection and human experience and things like that. Um, very little of our business and our product is dealing with just individuals. It's all about the social interaction.
Hmm.
So, for us, the most rewarding thing has always been on event day and I think the whole team can attest to this.
Yeah.
It's so fulfilling, all the months of hard work. It boils down to you putting a smile on everybody's face that comes to the event, right? It's been so fulfilling to understand that you made somebody's weekend fun um, through your efforts. Honestly, some people plan their entire year's schedule around our vacation trips and things like
Wow.
that, and they'll tell us they'll be like, "Hey, a year ahead of time, they'll want us to give them the dates, and they'll plan their schedule because that is the highlight of their year. They'll set aside a few weeks or weekends for specifically us because that's just what they enjoy. They really enjoy coming to our events, and that's really fulfilling. So human connection, everything. I mean, that's why you do it. I think you couldn't put a dollar value on that.
Hmm.
It's just that's what it's all about, and that's what is very important at the end of the day. Personally, you know, I've noticed no matter even the types of money or any types of success you have, you don't have somebody to share it with, or if you don't have people around you to share it with, you know, I don't think it's worth it. One of the biggest things like that I enjoy is after a success going and telling my boys about it,
Yeah.
like going and telling my boys about it, going and telling family about it, um, and laughing over it and getting a pat on the back from people you respect.
Yeah.
I think that means everything. I think you see it at the Grammys or something like that. Somebody will go win an award, and the first people they thank are their family, their friends, their teacher, their mentor, the people who are there with them along the ride, right? I think that's so important as far as really understanding that the people are what make it. I think if you just wanted to look at the success and think that you're going to be happy just based off of that, I'm not even talking dollar amounts. If you think like for me, if I thought I was going to be happy after having a 300 car rally and I would just be happy just because of that,
Yeah.
um, I don't think that would mean
It's not
anything.
how it works.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. So for us, we've grown to, crazy levels. We have over, 2,000 people that will come to our events throughout a season, 2,000
Wow.
unique contacts that will come to our events. We have several big corporate sponsors. We have a lot to show for our success over the years. I would say none of that has meant anything without the moment after an event where the team gets together and has a debrief and we're all laughing about the event, we're all having a good time. And then afterwards, where I go tell family about it, where I go tell my friends about it, where I go post about it, and then I get to talk and DM a handful of people about,
How that event went,
how the
how
event
they
went
enjoyed
and
it.
things like that.
Yeah.
Without that, the event would mean nothing. It
Exactly.
really would mean nothing. And I think that same principle, once again, it scales to every other opportunity in my life and then also every other business that I've seen out there. I think everybody will be able to tell you that no amount of success will equal a human connection.
And I'm curious with your, I mean, also coming from an Indian family,
Yeah,
like how have your parents been like supportive
yeah,
or like a bit skeptical about like, okay, like is even after seeing all these things, like how has their reaction been throughout the whole
yeah,
process?
yeah. And it'll be funny. I wonder if they'll watch this. It'll be very interesting because I we talk. They're very supportive now.
Yeah.
They're very extremely supportive, and I couldn't honestly do FCC without them. They help me in so many different ways now. Not on the even the front end, but mainly the back end, as
Hmm.
far as helping me navigate the business and things like that. My dad has played a key role. Then my mom has really helped me more on the social side, navigating a lot of the different interactions I have and trying to post game debrief those. My mom
Yeah.
has really been alongside with me for that. So both my parents very supportive now. At the beginning, when I was doing it for college apps and things like that, They saw the value in it for the college apps,
Hmm.
but past that, I think they really thought it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
I think they were sitting there like, why are you going out on a, Wednesday evening, going and taking photos of cars? They just didn't understand it. I'd be running out the door after finishing my homework and maybe even not finishing my homework
Yeah.
sometimes, you know. Um, I would be running out with a camera. That's how I started all this. I would go out and take photos of people's cars, post it to our social media and things like that, and I would go
Hmm.
network with people like that. I think I remember a handful of times when my, mom and dad both didn't necessarily support me spending so much time on it. But it's, I think, due to, how they grew up. I think we talked about this, so, from an Indian culture perspective, stuff like this is such a side quest. It's not necessarily the main bread and butter and what's going to put food on the table. And I completely agree and understand that that type of effort, you don't see, it's delayed gratification. You don't see the fruits quite, you know,
Just like right
right
immediately.
right away. And then also, it's not guaranteed either. It's
Yeah.
it's really not guaranteed. Whereas like the sure found path to success is going down the path of going becoming a doctor,
Doctor,
engineer, going and
lawyer.
doing all that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what they grew up with, and I honestly still agree that that's honestly a very safe path. And if you want success, and I still went through college, I still did, all the same path, and I'm still going and doing a real job. Those are still,
Graduating in a week.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I'm excited. I'm doing all those things with that in mind. I just think I have a little bit more risk and risk tolerance because I actually think that's because of the support that our parents gave us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they gave us the opportunity to go to a great college. We're at Purdue University right here,
Yeah.
great college, and a great opportunity along the way. I don't think our parents had that same opportunity growing up to be able to focus on different passion projects. And so I think my parents now get it that this is what they, set out to do to give
Hmm.
me that opportunity, and I'm capitalizing on that now. So I
Yeah.
think they get the
The
mission that
vision.
exactly, exactly. Um, but it wasn't always like that. I think for them, they hadn't seen what kid have they seen growing up going and getting cars together and trying to make something out of that? It's like it just wasn't. I honestly think still to a lot of people it doesn't make a lot of sense. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they've seen it firsthand. They came to our quantum rally last year and they spent the whole weekend with the rally community and got to see it firsthand. And so I think they're really coming around nowadays. Um, but it's been interesting.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. Now they're very supportive, and I also think it probably comes from the fact that once you're stable in college and now finishing up college, and they see you have a good future ahead of you. I think they're able to see um, more
Value in the whole journey.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
And
what it is.
one of the, just the last question to wrap things up. I think throughout this entire conversation, the key traits that have stuck out to me are or not, I guess, like phrase that summarizes the traits, just a persistent push towards quality
Yeah.
in like almost everything. Um, what do you think for people watching is like how you've been able to keep that emphasis towards like I want the customer to just, like you said before, turn your brain off or
Yeah.
turn their brain off,
Yeah.
and they'll still be like everything is taken care and taken care of for them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think the way to really emphasize quality, for me at least, at the stage that I'm in,
Hmm.
I have to care about it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to care about it as much as you do. Now we have on the leadership side of and the management side of our team, we have very, very qualified and understanding people of our mission that really do get the quality aspect. But I think when it comes to that full, um, you know, driven um, method of wanting to achieve that quality, it has to come from you.
Yeah.
You have to want it. If you don't want it hard enough, your team's not going to want it. Your participants aren't going to see it. Like it all stems from the entrepreneur and the owner at the end of the day. That one guy who's stemming the whole vision,
Hmm.
or the vision is stemming from. It has to come from you. So I would say for quality, it's a constant battle. you can't ever turn your brain off
Yeah.
and in that process. You have to always, you can't ever feel relaxed or else it'll all catch up to you and they'll see the holes.
Yeah.
You have to, people think, oh, as you scale and as you grow and as you build a team and as you build an operation, you can start to step back and turn your brain off and the operation will run itself. No,
No.
your role in the company changes, but it never is easier.
Yeah.
It changes in terms of, yeah, you're probably not the guy like on the front end doing, some, small marketing tasks and things like that, but you are very much driving that mission and driving that whole holistic brand image. And at the end of the day, you're the core of your team. If you don't have the attention to detail and the attention to
They're not
quality,
gonna.
they're not going to have it. So I think we've talked about it many times where sure it can be a frustrating time where people might not get the quality and the mission that you're trying to set out to do, but usually 9 times out of 10, when I think we've talked about it, when we realize something's not going right
Mhm.
on the team or on the floor, I think it always has stemmed from me at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? It's always stemmed from a lack of something I did wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I did something wrong, and I think you have to own that. Like I think that as soon as you start shifting the blame onto somebody else and you don't take ownership of it,
Then you've lost it.
you've lost it. You lost it. And so I've been very close, and I honestly might have started shifting blame off of me, and that's not good.
Yeah.
I think I have to humble myself. A lot of times when quality is not being met, what am I doing wrong? Not what are they doing wrong, or what is the community doing wrong, or oh, is the community has changed and this and that. You can always try to blame external factors.
Yeah, like you're always sailing the ship.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Good way to put it. Yeah. So I think it does boil down to you and your conviction on the product and you holding that glue of the project together.
Okay. So like having that really strong understanding of the mission
Right.
and then yeah, sailing the ship well.
Sailing the ship.
Yeah.
Sailing the ship.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for your time and thank you guys for all tuning in. I'll
Of
see you
course.
guys next week.
Thanks for having me.